Well, hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Engage. Today, Commander Eric and I are going to be talking about Star Trek Picard Season 1, Episode 2, Maps and Legends. So as you know, I'm the captain, I'm Captain Chase McKinney, and I am so happy to have each and every one of you listening. And again, I'm even more happy to have my good friend, my number one, Eric, hanging out with me as we talk Episode 2. So how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing really good. I'm ready to talk about this episode. There's a lot to try and unpack here, and I'm ready to do it with you.
Unpack. Yeah, like groceries, right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Like I don't do a lot of grocery shopping.
I mean, to each their own, I guess. I mean, as long as I got my cranberry juice and, you know, some cereal and stuff with milk, of course, then I'm good.
Yeah, with milk, right? That's interesting because there's some milk in this episode, wasn't there?
There might have been some milk in this episode.
Like before we get into that, was she paying for that milk? Is that what she was doing there?
You know, there's a few things that I just want to know about. So maybe, I mean, you know, the Federation, they have money, you know, only when they need it.
When the plot demands it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just who needs a mint? You can just replicate money, right?
Exactly. Or maybe the replicators don't do that, though, right? Remember, like, Tuvok told Neelix that the replicator wouldn't make him a Starfleet uniform?
I mean, I kind of have an issue with that, you know, because, I mean, it's matter, and what's the matter with that? Okay, I'm sorry. Couldn't resist.
Wow, that was terrible.
You're welcome.
Is that your dad joke? You're working on your dad jokes?
That's my dad joke for the day. I mean, I got to meet my quota.
I mean, there probably is a dad joke quota. I wouldn't know, but there probably is.
You never know. You never know. But anyway, so before we start talking about this particular episode, there were some things that kind of came to mind for me following our last reaction episode. There was like maybe one other thing that kind of came to mind with the first episode, like with the characters that we were introduced to, and that is specifically Daj and Soji, which we found out in this episode, kind of jumping with the timeline right now, that their last name is Asha, not Asher. We were kind of confused on the pronunciation of that and how it was being dictated in the last episode. But anyways, Daj, for anyone that cares and is a wordsmith and enjoys meanings of names and whatever, Daj means gift from God, and Soji means general administer.
Okay, those are both interesting. I think they're somewhat appropriate.
Indeed. I mean,
where did you discover these meanings? Did you like look them up somewhere? Was it on the trivia on IMDb? Where did you find these meanings?
I just started looking up like baby girl names and started looking up. I mean, it was more like, what does Daj mean, and what does Soji mean? And I think Daj is from the Hindi language, if I'm not mistaken. And Soji, I believe, and please no one hate tweet me for this, but I think it's from the Japanese language. I think.
It sounds like it could be Japanese, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you're going to hate tweet Chase, not me.
Right, because, I mean, he doesn't have a Twitter, so I mean...
No, I do not. Never will.
But I like to do that, and, you know, apart from music, you know, which we talked about last time, I do like to look at the etymology of words and kind of how they're formed and stuff like that. And anyway, so understanding that, I thought was kind of interesting and worth pointing out, that I meant to last time and just kind of slipped my mind. And even looking at the Star Trek Picard Countdown comics, like the ship that Picard was on, the Verity, that's a very virtuous name in terms of, it's like see, now I'm putting myself on the spot. It's like the morally right thing to do. It's highly virtuous, highly truthful and moral, basically, is what verity means to a certain extent. And I'm probably putting my foot in my mouth with that, but what I'll do is, just to make sure it's absolutely clear, I'll put this like on the Facebook group for our members. So if you are listening and you want to join a community of Trek fans, I highly encourage you to check out These Are the Voyages, our Facebook group. We have a page in a group, and all the other socials too. So anyways, just wanted to point that out, Eric, just before we got started with episode 2 today.
Yeah, that Facebook group, like, I posted a few things on there this week that I thought were really funny, and they got a laugh out of you too, Chase. Great meme with like Quark clinking some gold press latinum back and forth.
Yep.
Complaining about all the people that are like, oh, I'm just gonna wait till the whole season's over so I can get this for free and save myself $6.
I mean, that's one way of doing it, I suppose. But you're missing out and whatnot. And plus, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched it, then we're totally spoiling the show for you. What's up with that, huh?
Yeah, but they could be listening to this in the future after they've watched the whole season.
Like in the year 2399?
Well, I mean, if this still exists then, we've done a good job.
It'll be in the Quantum Archive, right next to Picard's little secret playroom.
If someone puts it there, awesome.
I mean, I'm going to put it in, like, my will or something, that this podcast needs to be strategically placed next to Picard's playroom.
Let's do it.
With the second picture of Dash. The second picture of Daughter.
Let's do it.
And all his little toy ships that Lily will get pissed about.
Well, those all broke.
Well, there's the refit.
Yeah, you can always remake them, though. They're just little tiny ships.
They're so beautiful. I love them. Okay, so let's keep going.
All right, that's enough preamble. Let's get into it.
So anyway, this was like I said, this is episode 2 of Star Trek Picard, called Maps and Legends, and this episode takes place immediately following the events of the first one. Now, when this episode started, though, we go in the Wayback Machine to the rogue synth attack that happened at Mars and Utopia Planitia and stuff like that. And I guess let's kind of start there and kind of work our way forward. So we're finally seeing future Mars, basically, and the shipyard. So what was that like for you, Eric, actually seeing that on screen the way that it was?
Is this the first time we've ever seen the Utopia Planitia shipping yards?
I want to
seen it before. I want to say this is the first time. I know we've seen space dock around Earth, but I don't think we've ever seen the shipping yards on Mars.
I don't think we have either. And you're right. We've seen, like, air quotes, dry dock in orbit above Earth, and if we did see Utopia Planitia in some other iteration of Trek, I'm not aware of it. And if someone knows about it, then please let us know. But I think this is, in earnest, the first time we're actually seeing it.
Yeah, I know at the very end of Enterprise, they had that 2-part episode that was, on Mars, where Peter Weller was there. But I don't think the shipping yards existed yet.
Right.
Right, so that was just neat, I think, just to see the shipping yards for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just like in the first episode, we saw the Daystrom Institute for the first time ever.
Yep.
But overall, this scene, first of all, it's got a lot of Battlestar Galactica, influence.
Mm-hmm.
Right, with the synthetic creations that, wipe out an entire area. But then I look at this and I say, what's the purpose of this scene? If this scene is just to show what happened, then I don't think it's necessary. In order for them to show this scene, I feel like there has to be some payoff later in the season. What do you think about that?
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so, because, and this is kind of separate from the show itself, but I was watching The Ready Room, which is like the little post-show discussion that Will Wheaton does with the creatives basically, and eventually the cast and crew.
Will Wheaton has like a After Trek show?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. That's cool.
Boom shakalaka. Look at that.
Dropping knowledge on us.
Shazam, just like that. Make it so. So he was talking with who was it? Akiva Goldsman, who was one of the writers on this episode. He's one of the main writers of the series, I'm pretty sure, along with Michael Chabon and Kurtzman and company. So
he's also one of the main writers on Discovery as well.
Yeah, that too. But he was, one of the things that he was talking about was how they strategically had the synths look like Data, and to play on our own thoughts and feelings and our nostalgia about Data, and then basically kind of flip it on its head, basically, which I thought was well done. And I can understand that, like, oh, this is like a Data Junior. Like, he's got the white skin or the glittery white skin. He's got the yellow eyes like Data does. He looks like Data does in the early seasons of Star Trek. Very slender, almost petite, I would say, if I can go that far. And then, like I said, they flip it on its head with, like, everything that happens in that control room, or that engineering room, or whatever that room was that they were in.
It looked like a break room to me. They were all eating lunch.
Well, there was a break room, but there was also this other room that he went in and got, like,
at first
a gunner or a phaser, a disruptor or something.
Yeah, the first scene, right?
Yeah.
Where hey, what's brown and sticky? A stick.
Wow.
What a terrible joke. Wow.
That's like a dad joke, but
that's worse.
That's worse than a dad joke.
No, but
he did give a Data response, like he said, some fancy
some
goo.
fancy scientific thing, yeah.
Yeah. So.
No, but then
anyway.
and then what was the name of that robot that we saw? It was F8. So it's supposed to be fate. Yeah.
You get it? You get it?
Like B4, right?
You mean B4 wasn't after Data?
Nope, he was B4.
I know he was B4, but I thought he came after Data.
Where is this? Who's on first? Golly. We got jokes today, don't we?
We're not going to get anything done, my dude.
Nope. Nothing will be accomplished if we keep telling these terrible, terrible jokes.
I don't know. The listeners might like this. That or they've turned it off already.
Yeah. One of those two. No middle ground, right?
Wow, we retained 50%. This is excellent. All right, enough math. Enough dad jokes for now.
Okay, so anyway, about this scene, right? In order to show this scene, and especially start episode 2 with it, for me, there has to be some payoff at the end, like I said, right? We have to go back to this. This can't be the only time we see it. And it also makes me think, and I know I've seen this, other people have said this online as well, that it doesn't appear that these synths were doing this on their own. It looks like maybe somebody had hacked them or taken control of them and was forcing them to do it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
and
like the little eyes did a little spinny, rainbow wheel of processing going on.
Right. And then they were saying it doesn't look like these synths have like the personality or the mental intellect to be able to do this. They don't have enough higher brain function.
Right. Which that kind of takes me back a little bit to what we were hearing in the first episode about B4 and this neuronic cloning that Commander Maddox was like theorizing and kind of coming up with and stuff. And you hear Dr. Agnes Jurati talking about how B4 was inferior copy. And if these synths were in some way impacted by virtue of B4, it makes me wonder if part of that whatever, was caused by some kind of malfunction from a download or from a data transfer or something, from B4 to these synths or in the creation. I'm rambling, but do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. You mean that they were trying to use B4 to create other synths, and like Data tried to upload his memories into B4,
right?
Trying to upload B4's memories into these new synths, and because it's not a sophisticated enough model, it led to these basically non-advanced synthetics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and that totally makes sense, and I believe that that's probably a good interpretation of what's happening.
Sure. Okay. Well, so for me, watching this prologue, this cold opener for this particular episode, reminded me of some David Tennant era Doctor Who. And for any Whovians out there that have watched Doctor Who, and I don't know if you have, I don't think you haven't seen Doctor Who, have you?
I've seen every great science fiction show, except I've never seen a single episode of Doctor Who ever.
Okay, well, we got to remedy that.
Well, it's not by choice. It is by choice. I don't normally like watching shows that are still making new episodes, so I like wait till the show is done and then watch them all at once. That's just the way I prefer to watch shows, and Doctor Who is not done yet. So whenever this new era ends, right, that started in what, 2006?
Five, yeah.
5, 6 with Christopher Eccleston. Whenever this era of the show ends, whenever that is, I'll start watching.
Wow. Okay. That could be another 16 years.
Yeah, it could be a long time, but
Well, anyways, back to this reminding me of Doctor Who, like the David Tennant era. Like I said, for any of the Whovians that are watching, the way that this scene was shot with the synth attack in the break room, and at least like what we're being shown in this break room or whatever it is, where these workers are in this synth is, it reminded me of like, the episode 42, or where we're first introduced to the Ood, like the Satan pit and everything like that. Both of which are episodes where David Tennant's 10th Doctor are wearing this orange spacesuit. Well, 42 technically it's red, but they're both spacesuit episodes, and it was the lighting from that episode that made me think of, or lighting from this episode that made me think of that one. So it had that vibe to it. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Maybe you'll have the same opinion for any of the Whovians out there that are watching Star Trek Picard. But right, wrong, or indifferent, that's just what it reminded me of. And one thing I do want to talk about is this part of the episode, the music. I did not like the music for the opener. Not the title card main theme, but like the do 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 that we kept hearing whenever we're first panning to Mars and we're zooming into this work area. It rubbed me the wrong way. It felt very hokey, and I don't know. I don't know if it was meant to create hokiness, but that's just kind of how it made me feel.
That's interesting. I honestly didn't even notice the music in this part. I definitely noticed the music later in this episode, and I think the music later in this episode works to good effect. But honestly, I didn't even notice music at all in this part.
Okay. So I don't want to camp out on this too much, but what did you think of the workers, the humans, and how they were interacting with the synths?
I feel like it almost doesn't make sense, because in the Federation, humanity is supposed to be this evolved, idyllic race, and for them to be somewhat like, maybe racist is the word to use, really doesn't make sense to me, because they should be used to, things like this.
Right. I mean, they are, we hear in First Contact, especially, we're more evolved and stuff like that. And we hear all throughout all the shows how we've put our differences behind us and how we've united as a people. And I'm not saying it as eloquently as any of the other captains would have said it, but the point remains the same, that we've put our differences behind us and we've grown as humanity in how we interact and work with people that are different from ourselves. I mean, that's like the mandate of Starfleet, is to, seek out new life and new civilizations. And, seeing these folks, they looked like 20th and 21st century humans, and not like 23rd, 4th, 5th century humans like we've come to know, like with hairstyles and demeanor, how they carry themselves, how they interact with people. It was weird seeing that.
It was weird. And another thing that this brings up, there's that episode of Voyager called Author,
mm-hmm.
right, where the Doctor writes a holo novel, but you learned that in an episode earlier, you learned that the EMH Mark I, which our Doctor was decommissioned by Starfleet, but they didn't want to get rid of the holograms, so they reprogrammed these holograms to do mining in harsh conditions. And I feel like that's almost what these synthetics are here. And so you feel like you'd have workers that are used to so-called lesser life forms being around them.
Right, and this goes back to Measure of a Man too, where we're talking about a subservient race versus a master race type of thing. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at. I mean, this is in 2385, and if I'm not mistaken, Star Trek Nemesis takes place in 2379. So it's only been 6 years since Data died or was blown up with this happening. So the creation of these new forms of life have been very much fast-tracked by the Federation and by Bruce Maddox and company, or whoever the heck is doing it.
Yeah, that timeline seems like it fits.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's only the prologue. We haven't even talked about the rest of this.
Yeah. That's the prologue. There's,
that's the prologue.
There's a lot to unpack in this episode.
There is. So next part, unless we have stuff we need to talk about, any more of the prologue?
Nope, let's move on.
Okay, we're going to keep on trucking. So from here, we're in Chateau Picard again. We're in Picard's ready room. I mean his study. And was that a dad joke?
No, that was good.
Okay, just checking. So we're in his ready room. We're in his study, and we're talking about what happened to Daj and going through this, and we're starting to get more understanding of Romulan lore. Not a Romulan version of lore. I'm talking like Romulan history and understanding of stuff. That's what I mean by lore, just to clarify that. This is Star Trek after all. And we start hearing this thing about the Zhat Vash.
The Zhat Vash.
Zhat Vash. Try saying that 10 times fast, everyone. Zhat Vash, Zhat Vash, Zhat Vash. It almost sounds like, Jean Valjean after a while, but anyway.
Yeah, here's the name Vash, right? That is not a coincidence.
Do you think Vash from Next Gen was actually a Romulan?
No.
Okay. No. Glad we had that settled.
Nope.
That's a whole bunch of nope.
Nope.
All right. So, anyway, Laris and Zhaban, the two Romulans there, are talking about this super duper secret police.
Secret police organization with inside a secret police organization.
Man, that's like Inception.
They incepted it. Yeah.
I get it. Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and take this one, Eric?
Well, it's funny because like last week we called these people his housekeeper and his butler, right? And today we learned they're both former Tel Shiar agents. Like, okay, that I thought that was interesting. And
well, I think, to be fair, I think I had mentioned that too. Like that was kind of set up in the Picard Countdown comic as well.
okay.
That's how Picard.
I think you did say that. Yeah, I remember.
But yeah, we definitely did joke about the butler and groundskeeper. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so then this Laris or Laris?
Laris.
Okay, so Laris starts to talk about this not just centuries old, but like millennia old organization, right? Within Romulan society. And I know Romulans probably don't use the same timeline we do, but if we're talking 2399, if you're thousands and thousands of years old, think back to like the year 400, right? What was happening on Earth in the year 400? I mean, this is an old organization, but they're saying this organization, were created on this hatred and fear and loathing of synthetic beings, androids, and like, if the Romulans knew about this type of technology 2,000 years ago,
at least.
Yeah. And then she said that the Zhat Vash are keeping a secret, and no one knows what that secret is, but if an outsider learns of it, that secret could break their mind.
That seems a little intense, in the words of Ron Burgundy. That escalated quickly.
But I mean, those are the words that Lars uses.
Yeah.
So, like, what secret could be so profound, like 2,000 years old, that it could break someone's mind? Like I can't even think of that because my mind will break.
I mean, maybe our galaxy is just a marble.
Or we're or we're on like a cat's neck.
Basically. All right, tweet that if you know what we're referring to right now.
Yeah.
Or post it in the group, and you'll get like 1,000 cool points or something like that.
Okay, so what do you think about this whole idea about the Zhat Vash, a secret organization inside a secret organization?
I mean, I don't know. It reminds me to a certain extent about like the Masons, right? So you have like the Freemasons, you have your 3 degrees, and then the ones that people get all bent out of shape about is really what's called Scottish Rite Masonry. And that's where you have like the 33rd degree Mason, the ones that have to, donate blood or sacrifice their firstborn or do some nonsense, like all these conspiracy theories and stuff like that. So that's what it reminds me of, is like Masons and 33rd degree Masons and things like that. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just going to wait and see what happens, but I'm just hoping it's not like going to just get us super excited and then just be like, No,
if they're introducing this cannot peter out. This has to be hugely important.
Right. It does, for sure. And, with that, I'm wondering with this super duper secret police, if like that scan that they were doing, with like the leaving anti-leptons around to be able to scan, if that was something that was originally devised by the Zhat Vash, or if that truly was a Tel Shiar thing. But I guess at this point it's kind of hard to determine what was Tel Shiar and what was Zhat Vash within Romulan society. You get what I'm saying?
Right, I see what you're saying. I feel like...
Because, like, the Tel Shiar was... What they were saying was more of like a front for the Zhat Vash. Like, that was supposed to be like the more public face of intelligence, more or less. And it kind of just came to be accepted by the Romulan Star government, or Romulan Star Empire, sorry, after a certain point. Right,
I agree with you.
And so part of that was like the only way you can keep a secret is if you're dead. So the Zhat Vash are supposed to be quote unquote dead, or people that are considered to be dead, or whatever. Which
so you took it to mean that all of the members of the Zhat Vash are like presumed dead?
Yeah.
Is that what you?
Maybe.
I did not even think of that. That's an interesting thought. It makes sense, but I that didn't come to mind.
So what if? Hold on. Okay, this is coming to me right now. So what if?
Light bulb.
What if everything with Daj and the biker Romulans? What if that was all just a setup, where Picard has to believe Daj is dead, but Daj is part of the Zhat Vash, and that's part of the whole being activated thing that they were talking about in the first episode. I know you don't like theories, but that's what was just coming to my head. Like, what if that was a setup? Because we learned later on there is some kind of conspiracy of sorts coming on. So I don't know. That anyway.
I don't like that idea.
I don't know if I like it, but when my brain starts thinking stuff, it happens.
It just goes. You can't control it.
I can't control my brain.
Okay, I really really hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Anyway, that's just my noodle doing what it does, and whatever. If it happens, cool. If it doesn't make me enjoy the show any less. It might. It won't, though.
It probably won't.
Okay.
All right. So.
But yes, I think the whole presumed dead thing is going to be like part of the puzzle, perhaps, because otherwise, why would they have said that if it wasn't? If it didn't need to be said, why would it be said? You know what I'm saying?
No, I know what you're saying, but I get the understanding that our character Narek is a member of the Zhat Vash. That's the feeling that I get here, and I know he says he has many names, and they could all just be aliases, and he could be somebody that's presumed dead. But I think he's being too out in the open if that's the case.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but like Laris and Siobhan, they've had aliases too, or different names too. Like one of them is Vinix or Vinix or something like that, which again was in the Picard Countdown comic. It was actually in the most recent Picard Countdown comic. So you guys might have heard me say that in the discussion that I did on issue number 3 on TRTV News. So, and if you haven't picked up the comic, it's in there, and it concludes like this part, which is taking place in the 2380 something time frame. So yeah, I'm really interested to see what the payoff is going to be with this Zhat Vash conspiracy thing with this first season, and if it'll carry on into maybe the second or even third season, if there's a third season.
No, I think this has to carry through, and I think it has to have a big payoff. Like I just said about the opening, the only reason to include that scene, I think, is to have some kind of payoff at the end. And I would think that the only reason to introduce the Zhat Vash here, after not ever knowing about it in Star Trek before, is it's going to have some kind of big payoff at the end. It's going to be super important.
Yeah.
I can't imagine why you would introduce something brand new after all this time to not have it play a big role.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on from the scene in his study, because it's kind of intercut with the scene in Daj's apartment. Talk me through your opinions of the scene in Daj's apartment.
Okay, so with the Daj's apartment, we're seeing Laris, kind of talking to Picard about this air quotes theoretical thing that they've kind of pulled the wool over the Federation's eyes, saying it's dubious at best, is what Picard calls it, with being able to scan for organic patterns or whatever he called it, with that, as in terms of like forensics and knowing what the heck happened. And this is where we're introduced to anti-leptons. Anti-leptons is actually a real thing, I found out. Real types of stuff in science and stuff. Smart people that are smarter than me know what that crap is, so I'm going to leave it alone. Yes.
I have a degree in physics, so I'm aware of leptons and anti-leptons and...
Man, look at you go.
Yeah, look at me. I mean, basically an anti-particle, and Star Trek's talked about anti-matter all the time, is that it's the same object, it just has a different charge.
Okay. It's the mirror universe version of itself?
No.
Okay, well, I tried.
No, but it is weird. It's a weird thing in science that that our universe is created almost entirely of matter, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be equal parts matter and antimatter. Like, it's like a thing that they haven't figured out.
Mm-hmm. Which, that's one thing, I will say this just as a quick aside, that's one thing I do appreciate about Star Trek, is that it does take stuff that's theoretical, stuff that's kind of just a little bit beyond our reach, and it tries to make sense of it and tries to make it a reality to a certain extent. Like with the transporter pad, for crying out loud, we have like what's it called, the Heisenberg compensator?
Yeah, Heisenberg compensator. There's the old joke. Yeah. There's the old joke. How does a Heisenberg compensator work? Just fine. Thanks for asking.
But anyway, this was an interesting scene. The way that it was shot, though, left me a little wanting. Like we're like you were saying, there's this intercut that's taking place where we're hearing her explain some stuff, like with the Jat Vache and everything like that, and we're seeing this slow pan, the slow zoom in. We're starting to get like going from a wide shot to a tight shot in Daj's apartment, and the way that it's shot made me think like, oh, there's going to be like a Romulan operative, or Narek's going to be there, or someone's going to be there while she's talking. And the next thing we see is, Picard and Laris that are just beaming in. And I'm like, oh. Okay.
Yeah, you thought they were going to like see them like searching or cleaning the apartment, and that was what was going to happen. Yeah, that would be interesting, but that's not what happened.
No, like it was the shot that was like, that just threw me off with that.
I totally understand what you're saying. Absolutely.
So I thought it was kind of interesting how they did it. I thought it was pretty cool what they did.
Sure.
with using her little, data pad thing, her smartphone and flashlight combo, and being able to see what was going on. I was thinking, like, what if they were doing something embarrassing? Like, I don't know, playing Twister or something. Like, that would have been kind of awkward to see, like, on a forensics thing. Not that Twister's embarrassing, but
I think you just see the last thing that happened, the most recent thing. But
the most recent thing wasn't them,
sitting on the couch
and ordering a frappuccino. It was getting stabbed and using the Force.
Sure, yeah.
But I did enjoy the scene for the most part, and I don't know, dude. Like, I know we're 20 years in the future with this show, but I'm just having a hard time with the hologram stuff. Like, I know we had the EMH. Okay, I know we had the ECH.
And I know, listen, in Deep Space Nine, they introduced the, there's that hologram communications pad that they put on the Defiant.
Yeah, and it wasn't just on the Defiant. I, for some reason, believe that they had something in Sisko's ready room. Because didn't the Admiral do a little hologram thing in his ready room too?
Yes, he did. Yep.
So I don't know if I'm just set in my ways. I'm just having a hard time with it.
But here's the thing: the same people running this show, there's some crossover between the people running Discovery.
Yes, there is.
They introduced holographic communication in Discovery, which totally doesn't make sense. But let's please not go down that road right now, please. I just think these people who are running the show are like, well, we're just gonna do the same thing. It's the same universe. Let's carry stuff over.
But to their credit, it does make more sense that it's here now in the late
absolutely.
24th, early 25th century compared to, Kirk's era, which is mid 23rd century, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
Or, 23rd? Yeah, 23rd century. There we go.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that was just me. Like, I'm just having a hard time, like, with this heads-up display computer stuff, and I'll be okay with it. I just got to deal, because it is what it is, but it's just going to take me some time.
Yeah. My biggest problem with this scene is that I know that this is Laris, and she was a member of the Tal Shiar, and she's got training and things like that. But people in this show seem to be able to figure out things very quickly, right? Like, oh, well, I could just, hey, they might have left a clue, but it's not a real clue, it's a fake clue. And Picard just, the first thing he looks at, oh, well, maybe the false clue is in this thing. And then she pops it up and she says, oh, well, we can't find anything in here. Everything looks the same. But you know what? I have a brilliant idea. And, oh, I can tell you exactly that she's not on Earth. And it's like, should you really be able to figure these things out that fast? I know it's not going to be exciting television if it takes them, 2 days to figure out what's happening. But it just seems like it was very fast to me.
So whenever she was asking Picard, like, what do you do whenever you're setting up a new digital assistant, with her, her Romulan Irish accent, and the first thing that came to mind was, wait, does Picard have like Alexa or something, or Siri? All right, I digress. So, all right, this next part, after this, if I'm remembering the order right, Eric, it's where we go to the artifact with Soji and Narek.
Yes, that's what we're calling it now, is the artifact.
And, dude, I can't talk about this. Like, this made me cringe. This entire scene made me cringe.
Oh yeah, this is definitely, I think, the low part of the episode. First of all, I know it's a thing, but I hate the idea of, like, somebody who's, like, member of a spy organization, like, sleeping with someone to get information out of them. I know it's a thing, but I just hate it. Can we stop doing this? Like, is this the only way to get information out of people, is to sleep with them? Like, honestly, is this the only way we can do this?
Yeah. Apparently, we have to, even in Star Trek.
I don't know. Maybe no one else has a problem with this. I just feel like every single, like, time there's any type of spy thing, the person has to, like, well, I'm going to get information out of them by sleeping with them.
I was just watching an episode of Next Gen, First Contact. Not the movie, the episode First Contact. And how they played that off with Riker being the alien, right? And this person's like, I want to know more about you, and the only way you're going to get out of here is by sleeping with me. And I think that was better done. It was well done, but this was just clunky as heck, man. Like, I was just cringing the entire time. Like, I just wanted it to go away. I'm like, make it stop, stop. And
I think these first 2 episodes are just full of really clunky exposition. There's so much information that they're trying to get out to us so quickly, and they're doing it in a very poor manner.
Sure. And Akiva Goldsman, whatever, Akiva, on the Ready Room, whenever Will Wheaton was, interviewing him, was talking about how these first 3 episodes of Star Trek Picard is basically going to be Act 1 of the show. So you do the math of thirds, and, that's just how it's going to be, I guess. And right now, as it stands, Narek is my least favorite character of this show so far.
Okay.
So far, I don't
really feel like we know enough about him to like have an opinion. I don't anyway. Because he was in the first episode for what, 1 minute?
Yes.
And he's in this episode. I mean, maybe he's in this episode for what, 7 or 8 minutes,
or 2. I don't know, but yeah.
But like, I just feel like he's such. We don't know enough about him. I don't feel like I haven't to develop an opinion of him. But I can I can understand why you don't care for this character at this moment.
And there was one scene later on that I was just like hard eye roll.
Okay, all right, let's do it. What scene?
Are we're gonna jump around now?
Oh, I thought it was in this same.
No.
Okay,
It's in a different scene.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. I thought
I will get to it. I have my finger on it right now. So
okay, all right. So don't take your finger off that button. So then we go from the bedroom scene to this administrator basically giving a security briefing, which is really awful. A really awful scene.
Hold on. I don't think that was that next? I thought that happened.
Well, there's the scene where Soji is helping the Trill put her like uniform on.
I thought that was later on because that's coming up with what I had my finger on the button for. Let's just go and talk about all the Borg cube stuff right now. Let's just go and do it.
I'm pretty sure we go right from the bedroom scene to we have to get up and go to work, and then we come out into like basically like the staging area, and there's that guy telling them, hey, this is a dangerous place and you have to be afraid, and you might run into, a former Borg, and if you don't know if something is dangerous, assume it's dangerous.
Yeah, it was like the ride when you're getting on like, the teacups at Disneyland. It's like, please keep your hands and feet inside the ride at all times. Make sure the lap bar's down. Don't try and get up.
And
stuff like that.
100% we're going to have a scene coming up very shortly where someone goes where they're not supposed to, and their badge is going to turn green and they have to run.
Yes.
That's happening. 100% that's happening.
So I have to say, whenever I was watching this with the park ride briefing that they're doing, it totally took me back to Borg Invasion 4D at Star Trek: The Experience in Las Vegas. And
was there a security briefing before that?
Yes. There was a briefing, and it's like, thank you for coming to Copernicus Station, and stuff like that. And you go through it, and it's a walking tour basically, but they have Starfleet personnel, and like they have like their phase rifles and stuff like that, and then they have Borg drones that end up on Copernicus Station, and they're trying to assimilate the past, kind of like they did in the movie First Contact, of course. And then it ultimately ends in you getting on this simulator, which is directly connected to Voyager. It's more connected to Voyager than it is like the Next Gen crew. But like it totally took me back to that, especially with like the shot where like the warehouse door kind of like pops up, and then like they walk through. I'm like, dude, that is like Star Trek: The Experience all over again for me.
Well, that's neat, right? I wonder if this is. I doubt it is, but I wonder if they did that on purpose.
It might. I mean, maybe. That'd be cool. Like,
that'd be cool. I don't know if the producers and the creators of this have that much foresight and knowledge. That'd be cool if it was.
Yeah. Okay, so I have my finger on the button. I have to talk about this.
Okay, go ahead, do it.
Okay, finger on the button.
Let's do it.
Where he's like, I'd like, Dr. Asher, I'd like to see you do your surgery. Actually, you're gonna need permission from such and such to be able to do that. Actually, I don't.
Okay, so why do you hate that so much? Why is that just like a claw on your side?
Okay, I love, and if you remember me doing this like at conclaves or on service days or just camping in general, dude. I love me some Austin Powers, but that totally took me out of it. All I saw was Mike Myers with like the bad teeth and the glasses saying, "Oh, behave, baby." Like it was Austin Powers in that moment for me. That's all it was for me. Each time, the 3 times that I saw this episode, I kept seeing and hearing Austin Powers whenever he cocked his head and he's like, "Actually, I don't." Like, really? That's like, it was friggin' Austin Powers in space.
Wow. Okay, wow. Okay, that's not what I thought you were going to say.
But I do enjoy me some Austin Powers, you know. Preparations A through G were a complete failure. But alas, ladies and gentlemen, we finally have ourselves a working tractor beam, which we shall call Preparation H. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. So, Chase rant over. Let's move on to the scene. Okay, let's move on to the scene where we're doing surgery on these Borg that we've taken out of stasis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, what are the Romulans doing here? They are what? They're taking apart Borg technology to try and reverse engineer it and then build their own weapons and ships?
I guess we really don't know at this point what they're going to do. And you know, with this surgery, I don't know if you noticed this. I didn't even notice this until the 3rd time, and I guess I'm just like dense or something. But there's a shot that we see with what appears to be a former Borg drone working on the artifact.
Right, I saw that. It looks like he's had his facial implant taken off.
Right. I mean, he's still got, I think, a few mechanical bits.
Right.
But he seems like he's more humanoid than he is cyborg.
Right.
Basically.
He almost looks like the still shots that we've seen of Hugh, right?
Yes. But
right.
It's brain being exposed.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have our Soji character in this scene who doesn't really look like she's doing anything. She's just standing off in the corner, like, cataloging stuff.
Yeah, it's like she's a medical scribe in the surgery room, basically. Like, the one that's providing updates to the family that's waiting in the surgical waiting area or something. But yeah, she's like taking notes and when remember the line in the first episode where I'm sure you deal with broken people all day.
With broken. We thought she was some kind of like therapist or psychiatrist.
Right, and to an extent, I wonder if she still is. I mean, she's. It's not clear yet if it's strictly surgery. If it's strictly surgery and medical scribing, or if she truly is some kind of psychologist, psychiatrist,
and
counselor, something.
After they like take out their implants and people have been Borg for a while, they're disconnected. There has to be some type of recovery from that traumatic event, and if they need a therapist there. Right. Okay, but one thing that really intrigued me in this scene was we see Soji walk over to this Borg drone that they were operating on, and then she leans in and she says something to him, and I don't know what the words are, but something like "you're free now" or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's subtitled, right? She says it in an alien language, and then it immediately cuts over to our character Narek, who he peeks up and he looks at her funny, like she wasn't speaking Romulan in that instance. Like she was speaking some other alien language, maybe. Mm-hmm. And we don't know who this alien race is. Like they were called the Nameless, and was she speaking this nameless language? Because it definitely looked like Narek did not know what she was saying.
Right.
I don't know if you caught that.
I did, and I was trying to even listening to that dialogue a couple times, both watching it a few times and even repeating that scene. I was like, does that sound like anything I've heard before? And I couldn't tell.
I couldn't tell either.
I mean, part of it sounded maybe Vulcan, maybe something else.
But you would think that a guy like Narek, who's a member of the Tal Shiar or Zhat Vash, would speak Vulcan and he would recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
And it totally looks like he does not recognize this language.
Unless, and this is kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, unless that this is like this is like a Zhat Vash secret language that might be being manifested. I don't know, but it's interesting to say the least.
It is interesting, yeah.
And even looking at the end credits for that particular character, that character is just titled or named XB/nameless. So I'm guessing XB is probably just X-Borg.
Yeah, that's what the Trill scientist says to her. She's like, "Are you researching XBs?"
Yep. So I was hoping for a clue, looking at the end credits, but anyway, it's whatever.
So I think that's our last scene on the artifact until the very end, right?
Yes, I'm pretty sure that was all of...
That was
all the Borg stuff, all the Romulan Borgy stuff, except for that last bit that we'll get to here in a second.
Yeah, and so it creates an interesting situation. Like, I'm definitely intrigued and interested in what's going on there, but like I said, this is definitely, I think, the weakest part of the episode.
Yeah, the artifact stuff, just no, not for me. All right, so this next part, where we're talking about, Picard. There's a lot of stuff. So basically, the rest of this is just Picard and Starfleet stuff for the most part, for the rest of this episode. I know we've kind of done a little bit out of order, and that's okay. It's not too dramatic because there's a lot of intercut between the scenes and the story and stuff, and it's okay. But Picard wants to go back to Starfleet. He wants to basically be an admiral again, be some kind of Starfleet officer again, and let's kind of muddle through this the best we can. How about that?
Okay. So first he goes and he visits with an old doctor from the Stargazer.
Which was cool. I like that little throwback.
Which we're trying to say, hey, certify me to go back out into space. Tell Starfleet that I am physically fit and ready.
So that was one thing I was like, really? You get winded going up some stairs, but you're perfectly fit? I mean...
Yeah, well, he's got to be perfectly fit, right?
Well, that wasn't like him, trying to convince him. It was the doctor saying, you are, by all accounts, you are, perfectly fit, despite being a relic, except for this one thing in your parietal lobe.
Yeah. So is this one issue? Because I remember in All Good Things, when he flashes forward to the future, he's suffering from some ailment or some issue.
Irrimatic syndrome.
Yeah. So is this the same thing? Or is this something different?
It might be something different, but I mean, Dr. Crusher did talk about there is something in your parietal lobe in Next Gen, but I don't know if it was supposed to be that particular syndrome or if it's something else, because to me, despite seeing Next Gen numerous times, I thought this irrimatic syndrome was supposed to be just a device that perhaps Q had devised to get him to think outside the box, so to speak, like with everything that happened in the series finale. So that's kind of where I'm a little lost in the weeds with this.
I think that this is not the same thing, because I just don't think that the people writing this, I don't think they know enough. Let me say that. I think they're not as knowledgeable as a lot of us fans are out here talking and listening on podcasts like this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I just don't think this is the same thing, because I think it would have been really easy to make it the same thing.
Okay. So let me just say this real quick. You're a physics guy. I'm a brain and emotions heart kind of guy, being a counselor and stuff in real life. So parietal lobe, it's towards the back of your brain.
Okay.
Okay. It's kind of like the top of your brain, like you can kind of see. You can see me, Eric, but the rest of y'all can't.
Okay.
So if you're looking at your forehead, so your forehead is what's called your frontal lobe, and it's going to go up to about like the center of your head, and then from there back is more or less your parietal lobe, and then at the base of your skull, that's called your occipital lobe, and then above your ear is your temporal lobe.
Okay.
And
So-
there's some other stuff too. So parietal lobe is something that is going to deal with processing your sensory stuff. Okay, so like how you, like just your senses and how it has to do like with your taste, with your touch, with temperatures and things like that, and in having like spatial awareness of stuff. So that's like kind of like the quick and dirty of what the parietal lobe does. But like more of your executive functioning, your decision making, your impulsivity, your personality, stuff like that, that's going to be your frontal lobe.
Okay, so that's interesting because this doctor here claims that all of the symptoms are like outbursts of anger and things like that.
And that,
So is this a mistake on the writer's part?
I'm not going to say that it is, but depending on what part of the parietal lobe that is being impacted, it could be in that tri-state area.
Okay,
like
all right.
you're where it could have some carryover effect with the brain. So just something to keep in mind, that they're all kind of like, if they're being pushed and impacted, it can impact other hemispheres, other lobes, or not other hemispheres, but other lobes of the brain, basically. So just something to keep in mind.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. All right, so anyway, this doctor, Picard plays on him and says, hey, are you going to do this for me? Are you going to be a good friend here? And the doctor agrees. We know the doctor. We don't see it, but the doctor agrees, because then we go to Starfleet to meet with the Admiral.
Mm-hmm.
And when we show up to Starfleet, I know if you want to talk about the music here, right? They're playing the main theme, aren't they?
The original main theme, actually.
Right, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, like the Jerry Goldsmith version from the motion picture, which was later used for Next Gen. It was modified for Next Gen, but it's even credited as theme from Star Trek: The Motion Picture by Jerry Goldsmith. So yeah, that was great. I enjoyed that.
No, sure, I enjoyed it too. And then we walk into Starfleet, and we go meet with this Admiral. Okay, so what do you think of this scene with the Admiral? Because I've got some thoughts, but I want to hear yours first.
So, Fleet Admiral Kirsten Clancy. I have mixed feelings about this particular scene. I thought it was utterly disrespectful and despicable, deplorable, whatever you want to call it, the way that she was speaking to Picard. And
see, I disagree with that statement 100%.
Well, hold on. At the same time, I do think it was pretty dang cocky of Picard to go in and be like, I want to be a 4-pip admiral again, basically. I want to have my old rank back. And her saying, having the sheer effing hubris that you have, it just rubbed me the wrong way. I know that we're all vested in Picard. It just really rubbed me the wrong way, and it was hard to hear that exchange. And I can kind of understand this decision to abandon the Romulans in favor of the already established member planets of the UFP, but it didn't make it any less difficult to hear or experience that exchange between the Fleet Admiral and the retired Admiral.
Okay, so do you want to know what I think?
I do, I think.
Okay, so
Put my big boy pants on real quick. Hold on.
When this Admiral says the sheer effing hubris, she is 100% correct. 100%. That is exactly the appropriate response in this situation, as far as I'm concerned. Because You said it. Incredibly cocky for Picard just to walk in after being out of Starfleet for 10 years and going on TV and basically just bad-mouthing Starfleet. Starfleet, it wasn't Starfleet anymore. And for him to just walk in there and say, I want a ship, I want a crew, like, do what I want, right? That is so, he is so in the wrong there, especially because he has no evidence at all to support any of his claims. He's just saying, believe me, I'm Picard, I'm a legend, and this is what I want, so you're going to do it. And her reaction is 100% appropriate and justified in that instance.
Okay. Did you agree with the decision to abandon the Romulans with what she was talking about?
See, I think this is where I really like this scene. This is my favorite scene of the entire episode.
Okay.
Is that there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. Both sides have a point. And I think that's what good sci-fi tries to do, is it tries to present a well-rounded situation. So I can definitely see where both sides have merit.
Sure. And I think if we're thinking of what good sci-fi does, where it gets you to think about things, to get you to considering something, basically, like I've said a few times, this is certainly at least one application having to do with like the refugee stuff here in the United States, for one. I think that could be one application of what this dilemma was like, that Admiral Clancy and Picard were experiencing for the most part. So
right, and I totally understand this idea of we have to take care of our own first before we try and take care of other people.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Okay. So, like, I don't know. I just feel like that whole scene there, though, is designed for you to have sympathy and for you to take Picard's side, because this is called Star Trek Picard, right? Yeah. And we've been conditioned throughout Starfleet history to be skeptical about admirals or, high-ranking people that aren't members of our primary cast. We're just so conditioned to think they're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole scene is just set up for us to take Picard's side, but that wasn't my reaction to it.
So let's just hang out here. Let's not necessarily talk about like the hubris and like the conflict, but this is totally like probably a dumb thing, but what do you think of the uniform, the Admiral uniform?
I don't have any thoughts. It's just the uniform.
Okay. We've seen Admiral uniforms, at least in
Admiral uniforms have evolved over time,
and they usually have way more whimsy and flair to them compared to like the regular, ranks.
Sure.
Sure. Like from like ensign or even cadet up through captain, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked it, and I kind of want to get an Admiral uniform now. And did you notice, and again, I know this isn't, like the conflict or the discourse, but like, did you notice that they changed, like very subtly, the look of even the rank pips on in this episode?
No, I wasn't really paying attention to that.
So we've seen in 80s and 90s Star Trek, like with the use of the pip rank system, that we know what they look like. We know we've seen Admiral ranks too, and they're usually been contained within a rectangular bar with a black background and then the gold pips, basically denoting whatever their Admiral rank is, going from 2 pips all the way up to 4 pips for Rear Admiral, Vice Admiral, and Full Admiral, basically. And it was more rectangular, but in this one, it was subtly changed to where the pips were a little shinier and more rounded instead of like blocked off like they were in the 80s and the 90s. And instead of it being rectangular, it was more, what was that, like trapezoidal or something? I don't know. It was something.
I'll have to go back and look. See, I wasn't paying that much attention in this scene.
But then we're also later introduced to a Commodore, which
is like between a captain and an admiral.
Correct. So they have like the block design rank like an admiral, but it's a 1 pip admiral rank for all intents and purposes of this description, compared to like the 2 through 4. So anyway, which I guess that in a way kind of leads us to talking about more of this Starfleet stuff, like the Starfleet HQ, and kind of moving the story forward, basically.
Okay.
So we're introduced to Commander O.
Commodore O.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Eric. Commodore O. And we're led to believe that they're some kind of Vulcan, like, operations Commodore, because she's wearing gold.
Okay, yeah, and we see the IDIC on that box on her desk.
Yes. So, what'd you think of the Commodore?
Well, I have a few questions about the Commodore here. So, this admiral, we see her on the phone essentially with Commodore, and we're led to believe she's probably like the head of Starfleet Intelligence or a high-ranking member of Starfleet Intelligence.
Yeah.
And very shady character here, right? You can just tell just by looking at her. Very shady character.
She smells shady.
But, like, my question is she a Vulcan that's, like, working with the Romulans? Or is she a Romulan that's, like, undercover and disguised as a Vulcan? I'm not sure. Because she knows about the Zhat Vash. And apparently she's working with them. And if the Zhat Vash is such a deeply kept secret, then why would they tell someone who's not a Romulan?
And see, that's the thing, and I forgot her name, but I'm under the impression that the Commodore and the Lieutenant are both surgically altered Romulans.
Yes,
that are deep undercover.
That's the impression that I got as well, right? And she doesn't act very Vulcan-y.
No, her emotions are very close to the surface.
There's a little bit too emotion there to like be a believable Vulcan. So
true story.
I thought my reaction was that she's a Romulan undercover.
Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking about the Lieutenant. I'm like, dang, man, like either you killed someone and you took their appearance and identity and you just became them, or man, you have been way undercover for a long time to have gone through the academy and now be a lieutenant in Starfleet and stuff.
They Ash Tylered it.
I thought we weren't going to talk about Star Trek Discovery today, Eric.
I mean, that's what they did, right? That's what I think they did.
I mean, okay. But yeah, I kind of like her. I kind of like the Commodore, but I'm also very suspicious, and I think that's what you're supposed to be.
Right. And we've heard like Picard say Starfleet is not Starfleet. It's not the organization that he was a part of. And it's like we see here that it looks like Starfleet has been infiltrated, and maybe they've been infiltrated who knows how long. Like, because if you rose to the rank of a Commodore, like, you've had to have been there for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, for crying out loud, I mean, I know it's not all the time, but I mean, Riker, for crying out loud, he was a commander for 15 years.
Well, like, he could have been a captain way sooner. He could have been a captain in season 2, right? That episode where his dad shows up to like brief him on the new command. That's in season 2. So Riker chose to be a commander for 15 years. Well,
and Picard, he was captain of the Stargazer for like 12 years before taking command of the Enterprise D for at least 15 years. We don't know how much longer he was in command of the Enterprise E after Nemesis, but we know that sometime within 6 years, for crying out loud, of Nemesis ending, he's a 4-pip admiral. He's a full admiral, and his flagship is the USS Verity. So yeah, there's a lot of time that's passed, for someone just to get to captain, let alone Commodore, unless you're just really schmoozing hardcore for it. So anyway, I'm really interested to see how Commodore O, plays out and the role that she might function. I'm hopeful that they won't snoke her and just kill her off in episode 3 or 4, because that would kind of suck.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the only time we saw Commodore O. Because I think that whole scene with her is to introduce us to Lieutenant Rizzo.
What's her face?
Lieutenant Rizzo, who is, like, very clearly Romulan in disguise. Like, because we see at the end that she's Narek's sister.
So I don't remember if we talked about this last time, and I don't even know if you were thinking about this, but how in the first episode he was saying, I lost my brother,
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if, this whole Jat Vash thing that they're introducing, if his brother is actually the lieutenant. Like surgically altered.
Surgically altered to become a woman?
Why not?
I mean, but it seems like an awfully long way to go. I'm not discounting it. It just seems like an awful long way to go.
Well, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. So man. I think we've only got a couple more scenes here to talk about, right?
I think so. Yeah. So we know that Commodore O was reviewing surveillance from when Picard was waltzing around and stuff like that around the San Francisco area, and we have. I'm probably gonna get it out of order. Was it him going to see Rafi, or was it the artifact scene that came first? I get them mixed up.
The artifact scene is the very last scene of the episode.
Okay. So
what happens after we leave Commodore O is we go back to Picard's Villa Picard, and he's there with Dr. Girardi.
Yes, and they are drinking some Twinings Earl Grey tea. Yes, I paused it, and you can see the Twinings logo on the tea bags.
Okay, so like, I don't know what Twinings is. It's just a brand.
It's a brand of tea.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. Well, there's one little scene here where she's picks up the iRobot book from Isaac Asimov, and Picard then says, "I never liked science fiction. I just don't get it." What the hell is the point of that quote? I almost feel like it's meant to be funny or ironic, but I almost feel like it's the writer saying to us, what kind of idiots watch shows like this? I felt like it was very insulting, that comment.
Yeah, I kind of took it that way too, and I think it would have been better suited if he said something like, "Oh, you're a fan of the classics," and she says what she said, and instead of him saying, "Sci-fi, I don't get it," he's like, "If you enjoy a classic, you should read Shakespeare." That I think that would have been more suited for Picard than saying, "I don't get it."
I don't get it. Yeah, I just that quote really did not sit well with me at all.
Me either. Yeah, I felt like it was a snub against Trek fans and sci-fi fans in general.
Yeah, that's the way I took it too. And I can't imagine that that's what the writers wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
They had to think it was going to come off as humorous.
Okay. Yeah, probably. And this next part. Okay, this next part after drinking tea and finding, you need to go find someone that you hate.
Well, but
hold on. Okay, this is the part that I got super excited about that you made me wait for.
Okay.
So you need a crew. Zhaban's telling Picard, you need a crew. How about Riker or Worf or Geordi? I was so happy when I heard that Geordi was alive. Let me tell you something, man.
Oh yeah.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that in one of the, I didn't read the comic, but I read somewhere that in the comic, Geordi was in command of a part of the fleet that was supposed to help the Romulans. And he was like killed in that or something.
So Geordi is the commander of Utopia Planitia.
Okay, all right.
So he's at the shipyards. So reading that, seeing Children of Mars and the explosions in that, as well as in the prologue of this very episode, I've been like, crap. Is he dead? Did we just really kill off Geordi off screen? Did this really just happen? And then I was like fanboying like crazy whenever I found out that Geordi was alive. I was like, yeah, come on now.
And like, I think the whole point of saying Riker, Worf, Geordi is just pure fan service right there. I don't think it adds anything to this, right? I think people are just like, hey, we're bringing back, Riker and Troy and Data. What about Worf and Geordi and all the other characters? And I think they just felt like they had to mention them somewhere. And I don't really think this adds anything for me.
Sure. Okay. Well, regardless, for those that have been, curious about the fate of Geordi, it's my understanding that he's alive since he was kind of name dropped, and I'm okay with that.
Okay. So what do? We go to meet Rafi.
Rafi Musiker, who is his former first officer on the USS Verity.
Okay, is that what she is?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and he takes a friggin' taxi, man.
He takes a cab. He doesn't transport.
Okay, first off, why a taxi? Why? Why a taxi? There is no money.
He's traveling inconspicuously, or trying to, right? Because being an admiral is too conspicuous.
Whether you're a friggin' admiral or you're a captain, people are going to know who Jean-Luc Picard is.
Well, not the guy at the Welcome Center at Starfleet. He didn't know who Picard was.
That, or he was just having amnesia, or just being, dumb. But anyway. But like
Rafi comes out with a gun pointed at Picard and says, "Walk away! Don't you dare come near me."
Hold on. Wait a tick, though. Do you have the 2386?
And she's like, "There's nothing you can say to me to make me want to listen." He's like, "Secret Romulan commandos are operating on Earth."
You got the 2386. Throws the water out of her cup or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I know it was just a comic, but I did like their interaction and the relationship that they had in the comic, and I'm hoping that we'll see that, like, hints of it as this season goes on. Like, she refers to Jean-Luc as JL. That was part of their relationship. Like, that was the nickname that she would call him, even as an admiral. So I'm hoping that kind of plays out as the season goes on, and seeing how it goes from hatred and disdain at this point to maybe more friendship and camaraderie like they had on the Verity together. So
okay. And then,
all right.
I guess one last scene, right?
One last scene. We got little hologram Lieutenant and Narek hanging out, chit-chatting about super secret spy stuff.
And she's basically like, "Hey, you better figure out, get information, or I'm coming out there and I'm taking this job away from you."
Yeah. Which, again, I still think that she's surgically altered. I think that hasn't changed.
Oh, I definitely think she's a Romulan in disguise, because they even call each other like brother and sister in that scene.
So I'm not going to be able to look at Narek the same. He's just going to be Austin Powers, like a Romulan Austin Powers for me, until something changes. So.
Okay. All right. So there we are, end of the episode.
We are at the end of the episode. We did it, Eric.
We did it. Okay. So, overall thoughts?
Overall thoughts. For me, it was an all right episode. It wasn't as good as the first one, in my opinion. I felt like they took extra care with the pilot more than they did this one. This one felt all over the place. It felt kind of clunky to me, especially the Narek scenes. I'm just not jiving with him. I'm hoping I warm up to him eventually, but I'm not picking up what he's laying down right now. And I was telling you, pre-show, Eric, that I watched this 3 times. I guess that's going to be like my modus operandi is to watch Picard 3 times before we do these reaction episodes or something. But, you know, the first time, hated it. Second time, it was not as much of a hate. Third time, it was manageable. So if I were to rate this, if you were to ask me on the first viewing, I would have given it a 6. But on my third viewing, I'm going to give this thing probably maybe a 7.5.
Okay, I think that's fair. So I've seen this episode twice. I watched it Thursday night, and then I finished watching it about 20 minutes before we started recording this. And I think I agree. The first time I saw it, I didn't like it as much, and I liked it more the second time I watched it. I think, this is just my opinion, you can agree, you can disagree, that I said the first week's episode I thought was either too long or too short, right? It wasn't the right length. I thought you could have easily changed that up, and it was too fast. I feel like this episode is too fast as well. And I really think the show would have been better served combining these 2 episodes into a single episode. It would have taken a little bit of rework. You can't just put them right together. It would have taken a little work, but I really think it would have benefited from having a 2-part premiere. I mean, every single Star Trek, except for the original series, has had a 2-part premiere. This is the only one that hasn't.
Yeah.
And you said after the first episode that you thought it was a breath of fresh air and a needed and welcome one. And yes. And I would agree with that. I did agree with that. I still agree with that now. And I think all of that breath of fresh air from that first episode, I feel like all of that momentum that we had was like stopped dead in its tracks with this episode.
Yeah.
I feel like this episode, I really think you should have combined it with the first one and done a 2-part premiere, and we would have a better response to this episode. That's my opinion. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah, I could probably get on board with something like that for sure. I mean, because like you're getting this anticipation up, you know, with the premiere episode. Like Patrick Stewart is back as Jean-Luc Picard. I mean, everyone's like super excited about that, and of course, people are going to tune in and watch this series. But yeah, like we talked about this last time, like with the pacing, that you know, once the explosion happened in the first episode, Picard wakes up on a couch. I think that should have been the start of this episode. Like that should have been like part 2, like waking up on the sofa, going to Daystrom, and then getting the flashback to the Mars attack and everything like that, and then all this. Like that would have been great. Sure, we would have. Yeah. Sure, we would have had like a 30-something minute episode on the front end, but still, it would have worked itself out in the end.
Right. Even still, you could have had the same amount of story in that first episode, and you could have just let it take its time, and it wouldn't have had to be 30 or 35 minutes. It could have still been 40 minutes, just giving it a little room to breathe.
Yeah. So I guess one of the last things, I guess I want to ask you about pacing, because I think we might disagree with this. So for me, I thought this episode was incredibly fast, because like I mean the Admiral office scene with the Fleet Admiral, the CNC, I looked up and I was like, dang, and we're at like the 22-minute mark there, and then I blink 3 times and we're having a secret brother-sister conversation on the artifact, and the episode's over. And so, like, I guess I was like sucked in one respect, but at the same time, I just felt like it was a really fast episode.
I agree. I was watching this episode, and I watch everything with subtitles, no matter what. And at the end of every episode that's subtitled, it says "captioning by." And I'm watching this scene with Narek and Lieutenant Rizzo, totally not realizing that we're 40 minutes into this episode, and then all of a sudden like they stop talking and it's like it says closed captioning before the episode ends. There's like at least 10
next time on Star Trek Picard.
But I mean, there's at least 10 seconds there where the captioning is up there, and you're like, wait, that's the end of the episode? That was 45 minutes? No way. It went really fast. And I guess maybe that is we're sucked in, but I did not expect that to be the last scene of the episode. And I think it's kind of strange that both episodes have ended with Narek. I don't know if I'm reading too much into that, but I think that's a weird choice that both episodes have ended with him.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Regardless, I mean, I know that I gave my rating. What would you, if you were to give it like a 1 out of 10, 0 to 10 type of thing, what would it be?
It's a 7, right? I gave the first episode a 7.5. I'll give this one a 7.
Okay.
I think it all boils down to this, and this goes with pacing. There's so much plot happening. There's a lot of plot thrown into us in these 2 episodes, but there's very little character movement. And I think that's maybe the biggest issue I have is it seems like there should be a lot happening with all of this plot points that they've thrown at us, but the characters themselves haven't done very much at all.
Yeah. Well, we're still going to show up and watch it and talk about it, and I'm not going to be an angry nerd troll and say that I outright hated this episode, because I did not outright hate it.
Me neither.
This episode just wasn't my cup of Earl Grey tea hot.
Nope, mine either. And I think it's interesting that like when the first reviews started to come out, the first reviews online before last week's episode, all the reviews were for the first 3 episodes, because the first 3 episodes were made available to critics all at once. And basically all of the reviews said the first 3 episodes are slow and they're just going to take their time and prod along here.
Yeah, and I've heard that the first
3 episodes are also directed by the same person. Like, what they did with this season is they chose to direct them in groups. Like, Hannah Culpepper, that's the name of the director, she'll do the first 3 episodes, and then Jonathan Frakes is going to direct the next 3 episodes.
Really? I thought I read that Hannah Culpepper was just doing 1 and 2, and then Frakes was doing 3 and 4 for some reason.
Almost 100% positive that she's doing the first 3 episodes, and then Jonathan Frakes is coming in for the next 3.
Interesting. Okay. Well, any final thoughts as we wrap this up, Eric?
I'm like I said this last week. Like, don't get too into your own headspace about theories. Like, I've got some theories about things that can happen. I've got an idea. And I'm kind of interested in that, but try to enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I hope it doesn't seem like I didn't enjoy it, because I absolutely did, and I hope that everyone else out there listening enjoyed it as well. Yeah,
and just recognize too, for those of you that are listening, first off, we're very grateful that you're choosing to listen, not only to our reaction but just to the show in general. So I hope that you recognize and respect our opinion on this, and that's all it is, just an opinion. The community and just, I think, Trek in general, I think does a pretty decent job of respecting one's opinions on like the shows and the movies and the characters and stuff like that. So, we're just doing this 1 week at a time, folks, and you might disagree, you might love it, or you might loathe it, but whatever, we can all get along. So. I guess that's it. I guess we gotta start saying goodbye for this episode. So, see ya.
Bye.
No, but seriously, thank you, Eric, for again doing this, and it's always a pleasure to have you. I'm gonna keep saying that. I'll be a broken record on that. I mean it though. So thank you for doing this with me.
It's always a pleasure to be here. I'm gonna keep saying that.
Good. All right, folks. Well, again, thank you for engaging with us today as we talk about Star Trek Picard, Season 1, Episode 2, Maps and Legends. Remember that you can connect with us on all the socials. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at TRTVPod. Make sure that you do that. Make sure you connect with us, and we'd love to get to know you and hang out with you in cyberspace. So if you found the page, you found the group, just hit that join group button or go to group button and Shazam, there you are. But remember, you can also let us know, how you're reacting, how you're responding to these episodes, and just the content that we're producing here. You can do that by opening hailing frequencies to trtvpod@gmail.com. You can also send a voice-only communication to 817-752-4757, 817-752-4757. Remember, there's a 3-minute time limit, and your comments may be used on a future episode of Engage, These Are the Voyages podcast, or TRTV News. And finally, if you just, mailing or sending, pads, like data pads and stuff like that, you can do that. Or you can write a letter, and you can send it to the Lone Star Station to P.O. Box 2455, Azle, Texas, AZLE 76098. Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for listening. And as always, may you boldly go and make it so.